It can be really hard to look someone in the eye and say that symptoms are not the enemy. They are part of the healing process. It's a hard thing for me to say that to people because our symptoms are often so unbearable and we would just do anything not to feel them. But in the world of homeopathy that I learned after interviewing my guest today, Vanessa Baldwin, I've learned a new way to really look at symptoms. I used to think that symptoms were our body's way of communicating, they were a messenger, but I think that my understanding deepened and that it's more than that. Symptoms are part of the healing process, which is like, are you serious? I have to go through this? And unfortunately, the answer is yes to that. So I wanted to bring Vanessa on because we were voice noting back and forth on Instagram actually after I was on her podcast. I aired that episode on this podcast, and I loved the opportunity to talk with her. She knows so much about circadian biology. I was also starting to share with me about homeopathy. And so I was sick a couple of weeks back. I'm sure you guys remember that episode when I was all congested. And she was just her insight and her way of looking at the sickness. She was like, well, did you get a fever? Because that would be a good thing. I was like, no, I didn't get a fever. I'm like, a good thing? Like, what are you talking about? So it was such an interesting way of looking at the body and how it heals. And one of the things that brought me a lot of hope and optimism is that I am starting to work with people who are really stuck in a state of feeling so sensitive to everything. It's like every little thing they give their body, it's like they have to microdose supplements, or it's like they take a supplement and it's good one day and then the next day it's too much for them. They can't, their bucket of stress is so overflowing that it's like, where do you even go from here? And for a lot of people, homeopathy can be the answer and can be a solution for both acute and chronic issues. And it can help you to start calming that sort of system, the cell danger response that's happening in the body. And so I hope that this episode will provide so much insight as to what homeopathy is, a new way to look at how the body heals and how to approach healing, and also potentially a new methodology for people to use as an adjunct to whatever they're already doing, and maybe sometimes to replace something that they're already doing. So I'm really, really excited about this interview with Vanessa Baldwin. She, again, is just a wealth of knowledge, and she was so fun to talk to, and I loved hearing her own journey. I mean, it was so surprising. I didn't know this about her. She really came to this world very recently, and I'm just like, how do you know all this stuff? Or just for being here for just such a short amount of time. And so it really goes to show that the body can heal really deeply when it gets what it needs. And so I just hope you are as so delighted by this information as I was. And so here is the interview with Vanessa. I'm so excited to welcome my fellow Long Islander, Vanessa Baldwin, to the show. Thanks for being here, Vanessa.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Danny. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to chatting.
I'm so excited. So we met on Instagram, and then I was on your podcast, and I just feel like every time we talk, I learn so much about, all different things. And you have opened me up to this world of homeopathy, which I still know virtually nothing about, but you really have piqued my interest with this topic. And I wanted to bring you on. I wanted you to share your story of how quantum and circadian biology and homeopathy really transformed your health. And, I think it's great to have these sort of testimonials about how when we live out of alignment with the sun and nature, how it can really mess us up in ways that are really unexpected, right? So many people are like, how could my, migraines or my weight issues or my brain fog be tied to this thing, like whatever the symptom might be, IBS. And it can be, right? Like it can impact, it could throw off everything for us. And so I love bringing on those sort of testimonials. And then, like I said, I'm really excited to hear about homeopathy because I've been hearing about it more and more, but it's something that's that goes back a long time. And yeah, so I would love to just open it up with your story, and please start wherever you feel like, whatever you want us to know about you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jenny. So, man, my story is long and I'll try to make it as succinct as possible. But of course, like most healers, right, we come to the health and wellness space through either our own health challenges or somebody we love. And it was me who had health challenges. In fact, I had health challenges really my whole life. It started when I was 5 years old with reoccurring bladder infections. So this is already showing poor mitochondria, poor redox. Like my body couldn't get rid of these things on its own at a very young age. It wasn't mounting a fever like it should, right, to get rid of infection. So what did they do? Like I grew up in extremely conventional household, right? There was no talk of anything alternative. I grew up as a child in the 90s. I mean, it was all the low fat, all of that, like very similar to you and your story of how you grew up. So I kind of really relate to that. But my mom didn't even know about anything else, right? So they went to the doctors and they said, well, she has these reoccurring bladder infections. She has, I was wetting my bed. I was, had a lot of urgency and frequency. I was sweating my pants a lot. And they were like, all right, let's just put her on long-term antibiotics. So I was on antibiotics for reoccurring bladder infections for about 2 to 3 years. And of course, that did not solve the problem, right? Just being on antibiotics, it just destroyed my gut microbiome, destroyed my mitochondria in the bladder, really was a detriment. But of course, I don't blame anybody. This is just what they did. And my mom didn't know any better, at that time. So anyway, fast forward, that of course did not solve my bladder issues. It was like a continual seesaw of reoccurring bladder infections and yeast infections basically my whole life. Like the doctor would know me. I'd come in and I could even call and say, I need antibiotics. And they would just give them to me. Like I didn't even have to go in to get a urine culture. And every time I got the antibiotics, I was like, please give me the diflucan because I'm going to have a yeast infection next. So it was just this seesaw, bladder infection, fungal infection, bladder infection, fungal infection. I just kept suppressing, which is actually driving the pathology deeper in the body and actually causing a lot of mitochondrial damage to that organ and those areas of your body, which I obviously have a genetic susceptibility to, right? No matter what it is, I mean, genetics are not our destiny. I will say that like 1,000,000%. But in order to get anything, you have a susceptibility in that area, right? So I have a susceptibility in this area. So as I got older, it turned into more issues. It turned into obesity. I was actually 60 pounds heavier than I am now at 5 foot. So I was very heavy.
I'm 5
A lot of
foot
hormonal
too.
amounts. Are you?
Yeah. You never know how tall somebody is on Zoom, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm actually 4'11¾", but I just like to say it's 5
Well,
foot.
I'm 5 feet and a half an inch, so I'm like towering over you.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So anyway, I was very 60 pounds overweight is quite heavy on
Yeah,
this
on a
kind
small
of
frame, yeah.
right? Yeah, and I had my kids. I was a special ed teacher. I also relate to you in
Oh
your
my
journey with that
God.
because I was a
Yeah, I was
special ed teacher
a
for
speech
15 years.
therapist. So funny.
That was my past life, as I like to say.
Yes.
So anyway, as that time, I was really not taking care of myself at all. I was very into taking care of my kids and my family and my husband and my career and all of that. And the hormone and metabolic issues were terrible. I was always hungry, always had a fruit with me, whether it was banana or an apple or a snack or whatever. So something to eat all the time. And, so I decided I was going to take charge of my health. I was like, this is it. I'm going to take charge of my health. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what my mom did. I'm going to go to Weight Watchers and I'm going to solve all my health problems because I don't want to be heavy. I don't want to be obese. I don't want to have all these hormonal issues. And I just was tired of being fat, really, basically. So I was like, I'll go to Weight Watchers. And it was all the diet and the exercise, right? So I was counting my points, which was counting calories. And I lived in a calorie deficit probably for about 3 years. Oof. I lost the weight, but you're going to hear what I developed after that, right? Sure. So not only did I live in a calorie deficit for 3 years, but then I also started running marathons and doing a lot of weight training. And so here I am
tanking
in the
your
deficit
left
for 3 years. Oh my God, the tanking my left. I think I'm still working on getting it back into balance, honestly.
Yeah.
And just completely, running myself to the ground. I was always injured. I was constantly in my PT for, I got a knee thing, I got a hip thing, I got plantar fasciitis. I actually had 3 herniated discs in my neck, which they told me I would have to have surgery for, which I didn't. I actually healed that before even getting into all this stuff. But yeah, so it was just one thing after the next. And then autoimmunity started to come out after a couple of years of being like in this, even though I always tell this story because I look so healthy and fit. Like if you saw me, you'd be like, wow, that girl's really healthy. She does yoga, she runs, she weightlifts, she eats all the fruits and vegetables. Like I looked so healthy. But all of a sudden, all my autoimmunities really started to take hold. So I started with Raynaud's was the first thing that I got. So my hands would turn like really yellow and I'd lose circulation, especially in cold. It was very triggered by cold. I kind of ignored that. I did ignoring a lot of things right at this time. And then I got alopecia areata, like these huge giant bald spots in my head. And that really should have been a wake up call. But I just went to the dermatologist. Like I was still so conventional. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to the dermatologist. He's going to put these cortisone injections in my head every 3 weeks. And all it did would move these quarter size, bald spots in my head. Like it would move from one spot to the next spot, but I just kept doing it. So just suppressing. And then I got another bladder infection. It was after my first half marathon training, so really depleting my body. And I got another bladder infection. And this time I go and I get my antibiotics and I take them and I do all the things. And after my round of antibiotics, I'm like, well, this didn't work. Like I need a different antibiotic. Like this antibiotic didn't work. Like what's going on? So I go back to my doctor and he's like, well, you don't have a bladder infection anymore. So I can't give you any more antibiotics. And then it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? So then they send you to like a specialist, right? And they're like, oh, well, you have interstitial cystitis. Like, cause you tell them your history about you've had bladder infections your whole life. She's like, you probably didn't have a bladder infection every time you had one, or you thought you did. You just have this, chronic inflammation of the bladder. And the conventional medicine treatments for that are just horrific. I'll just say that. In fact, at one point I was told to remove my bladder, which obviously I did not do at 35 years old. I was like, I think I might need that bladder. Like, I think I might want to have to not pee in a bag for the rest of my life.
Oh
So
my
yeah.
gosh.
So then I just kind of lived with their treatments. I used to do these things called bladder insulations, which are pretty horrific. And I would never recommend anybody do them. And it would come and go. So it wasn't like too debilitating. Like they'd come in flares and waves. And I was like, okay, like I could live with it. So then the pandemic came and I was a teacher, New York, super high stress time and environment that was going on here. And I was in a very stressful state. I'll say that right now, living here. And I definitely bought into all of the things, right? I wasn't really into like anything that I am now. I was like, I bought into and fed into all the media and everything. So, we had to be deemed as virtual teachers. I was a virtual teacher the coming school year. After we shut down, then I was a virtual teacher. And I was now teaching in front of 3 blue lit screens, in front of all that Wi-Fi and non-native EMFs all day long, inside all day. I mean, as a teacher, a special teacher, that's not how I taught. I never would have sat in front of a screen all day. Like I was up and moving around, taking my kids outside. Like it was a totally different way of living or teaching, but now I'm stuck sitting in front of these screens. And I started getting more symptoms. I started having joint pain. I was really cold. I noticed I was gaining weight easily. Like something was off, and I got a diagnosis of Hashimoto's. That was the next diagnosis. So now I'm here with 4 autoimmune conditions. And, there's this medical intervention going around and I'm in this fear state. And I'm like, I think I need this. Like, I think I should probably do this medical intervention because I actually was like trying to get into it. Like I was like, I need this. I was like fearful and scared that I would like die if I didn't do this. Right. Which is not the frequency that we need to be living in. But anyway, I went and did it. And the first one, after the first, we'll say injection, I noticed my breathing was really off. And I'm like, what's going on? Why is my breathing so off? Like, why do I feel so weird? And I was asking all the other teachers, because you get it, you go back to work, right? I was like, did your breathing feel off after you got this? And they're like, no, we're fine. I'm like, okay, it's like coincidental, right? It's nothing, right? And then 3 weeks later, you go and you do it again. And after that one, my health just plummeted so much. It was like a total collapse. Like it was, my life was completely turned upside down. I had chronic insomnia that was just completely debilitating. I mean, it was a total mast cell activation syndrome reaction, like that was triggered in me. I had panic attacks. My mom had to come bring me a Xanax because I was laying on my classroom floor because I didn't know what to do. I was having depression, like out of nowhere. Like I was just, and I'm like this happy, bubbly person, right? I was just like trying to teach my kids on Zoom, like about the 3 phases of matter. And here I am crying. I've like go to the teacher in the next room. Like, I don't know why I'm crying, but I can't do any, like, I just was like all this neuroinflammation. My pain was out of control. In fact, I got another bladder infection shortly after, and that was it for me. Basically, I was up all night with bladder pain, bladder spasms. It was just chronic and debilitating. So I actually decided to leave my career at that time, just go on leave. I'm like, I need to go figure this out. Like, I can't function. I'm up all night in chronic pain. I'm, crying. I'm having panic attacks. I can't teach. I can't physically do my job,
Yeah.
not well, at
Oh
least.
my gosh.
So I wound up taking a leave, and, I never was back. I mean, I thought I was going to be back, but I never was back. And I was still in it wasn't like I really realized what had happened to me right away. Like it's more like in hindsight that I realized that this was injury. But I was like, oh, okay. I would go to all my doctors, and I would see the endo, and I'd see the gastro. I also had chronic diarrhea. Like, I was seeing all of these different, doctors decompartmentalizing me, trying to figure out what was wrong. And I just felt like completely lost alone. Nobody could help me. Like, it was just kind of like, take the antidepressants, take the painkillers, and kind of move on. I had my boys were, I'm a mom of 3, and they were really young at the time. I honestly couldn't even take care of them. I couldn't even function. It was to the point where my husband was kind of afraid to leave me home alone in the house, like, because I even had like suicidal thoughts, because the pain, like living in that kind of pain, like nobody should experience that. And it's not right. So yeah, that was what happened. And so then I went into like functional medicine, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get into functional medicine. I'm going to figure this out. They're going to get to the root cause, right? They're going to figure this out. I went to naturopaths, and that did not happen actually at all. I went to several functional medicine doctors and naturopaths and got nowhere. Throwing supplements at me was not helpful. My body was stuck in the cell danger response. And the more you threw at me, the more it just reacted to everything. Like, no matter what you give me, I would react to it. I would react negatively, and it didn't make me feel any better. So I quickly moved on from that after, I guess, about another like 6 months or so. But I did everything at that time you could think of, like all the supplements, all the detoxes, whatever they would give me. I had tried all the diets, like autoimmune protocol, keto, paleo, low oxalate, low histamine. It didn't matter. Like, the symptoms were not shifting at all, no matter what I did. So eventually I was following a doctor who was talking about sunlight and ketosis. And I was like, okay, well, why not? Like, I could learn about sunlight. Like, why not? I could try this. And her thing was like, you got to get out at sunrise. And I was like, okay, I could do that. Like, as much as sick as I am, I could go sit outside in the sun. And that was the first thing that shifted things for me, was getting out and watching the sunrise. So I would go out. It was like probably in the fall time when I started doing this practice. I can specifically remember it. I'd go outside and I'd sit outside and just sit there. Like, I would literally just sit with my feet in the grass and sit in the sun and just kind of be. Of course, I had my phone and things like that. I wasn't like in tune to all of that, but I was sitting outside and just gathering all the energy, like improving my redox, supporting my mitochondria, building my exclusion zone water, balancing my nervous system, gathering all the energy. And I would just sit there for a few hours. And I noticed, and this is before I was even blocking blue light at night, that my insomnia was better and my pain was better. And I was like, wow, there is something to this. So of course I continued to do it, and I kept learning more. And then eventually I got blue blockers. I got a red pair, which was like my first pair, which were so dark.
Yeah.
But I honestly needed red to calm my nervous system down. Like, I honestly did. So it was run up to be good. And then things just kept improving. And then I learned about, non-native EMFs. That was a big deal, like shutting off my Wi-Fi at night. We actually switched to Ethernet, because all of this is continuing to activate the cell danger response in somebody with mast cell activation syndrome. So, I mean, I was given that diagnosis by a naturopath, but I don't really like to associate with it. And she also told me that you will have to be on medications for the rest of your life. And I took the mast cell stabilizers, and they didn't feel any better. And I'll tell you what, nature and homeopathy were way more powerful than any mast cell stabilizer. So we'll just go there.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's kind of where I got introduced to circadian biology and all the things. And then I shifted into homeopathy after, like, of course, I am kind of type A, very type A. That's also, kind of correlated to people with autoimmunity, right? So I would do all the circadian practices really perfectly and really well. And I followed everything, seasonal diet, all the things that, we talk about. And about a year and a half later or so of doing these practices, I was still kind of frustrated. I'm like, well, I'm doing all these things, but like, I'm not fully healing. Like, what's going on? And I actually developed this intense I don't even know what to call it. Maybe like a yeast infection in the bladder. Like my bladder felt itchy.
Mm.
And I don't like, that's like a really unpleasant feeling, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you can't scratch and you don't know what to do. And it was so uncomfortable and
Uh,
so painful. And I had been listening to a lot of Heather Shepard's work because she was talking about a lot of the quantum and circadian biology things. And I was like, she's talking about this homeopathy thing. Like, why not try this?
mhm.
So I went to her and I wound up getting a consultation with her and getting my first remedy. And we cured the itchy bladder. And I was like, then I was hooked. And then I was like, wow, you can like shift this with this. And I was like, how did that happen? Like, because for me, I had never known about anything that was just regular medicine, right? So
Mhm.
like it was huge. So then she was having a practitioner training and I went and I studied with her after that. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into all of that. So it's a mouthful.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
What a what a long journey. And I can't
Mm.
believe it's only so recently that you got into all this stuff because your knowledge is so deep in these areas. And
Um,
so, it really is such a testament to like how much things have shifted in the last couple of years for you. And I think that's also inspiring because there's some people, coming here and they're like, this is all new to me. And it's like, and that's okay. And you can really see
yeah.
some huge progress, start with getting outside, getting your feet in the grass, get the blue blockers, block blue light at night, get the natural sunlight. That's like a huge foundational piece. So you've mentioned a couple of times and on our private messages, I hear you say this too. You say like suppressing medicines or like suppressive therapies. What does that mean? Like this
Oh,
is
okay. This is
it's such an interesting way to say it. So what is a suppressive therapy and like what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you. I've been doing this about 4 years. So yeah, it definitely takes time. But and I really get into learning and I love learning. Like I'm a
Me
learner,
too.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, I can't help it. Like I could read all day long and listen to podcasts all day
Yeah.
long. I have to like remind myself to stop, right? But anyway, so suppressive therapies is just anything that suppresses the body's natural healing capabilities. So I think that we have this thing where we think symptoms are against us or they're wrong or they're bad. And that's not actually true. The symptoms are the healing. Without symptoms, your body actually can't heal.
Mhm.
That's the body's healing response are the symptoms, right?
Mm.
So a suppressive therapy is anything that suppresses the symptoms or stops the symptoms or basically puts a band-aid on it. So a suppressive therapy is going to be like a medical injection, a antibiotic,
Like an
a
ibuprofen.
steroid. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, ibuprofen. Anything with the word
Anti
anti, antidepressant,
anti-inflammatory,
anti-inflammatories. But
anti-allergy.
even what? Oh,
Yeah.
antihistamine. Yep. Birth control that suppresses your hormones. So those are
Mm.
all suppressive therapies.
Okay.
But even things like in the alternative world, and not everybody wants me to say this sometimes, but like taking oregano oil like constantly, this is also a suppressive therapy
Yeah.
because you are suppressing the symptoms because the symptoms are the messengers or the whisper there for you to like learn and what to do and something in your life is not working and it just suppressing the symptom is not going to solve your issue, right? Just stopping the action of that symptom with some modality. In fact, Hahnemann, who's the founder of homeopathy, I'm just reading one of his books, and he talks about like suppressing the body in any way, especially on the skin, will drive deeper pathology, which is very true. Like even any medical doctor knows that if you suppress eczema, it leads to asthma. Even if you suppress eczema, it leads to epilepsy a lot of times. So that's one of the first questions I ask. Suppressed eczema can also lead to autism. So because the skin is the body's largest detox organ, and the skin is the way the body is pushing the things out. And when you suppress the skin, you're just pushing everything back inside, back into your organs or in your brain or wherever. Suppressed ear infections lead to behavioral disorders like in my own child. They can lead to chronic migraines. Suppression of joint pain can lead to heart disease. Suppression of UTIs can lead to depression. It's when we suppress these things, it causes deeper pathology in the body. And this has been documented over hundreds of years from homeopaths, but even in the traditional medical community. Like if you ask a traditional medical doctor, they know that suppressing eczema causes asthma. And they will tell you that if you suppress your baby's eczema, that your child will probably likely develop asthma over time.
Well, I'm a
That's
testament
you?
to that. Well, yeah, I had
I see
eczema
these
as
stories.
a
It's
kid,
not
and then I
uncommon.
developed asthma in college. So I don't know if it's that delayed, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely can be. Suppressed acne leads to gut issues. Like there, I can go
Oh,
on and on
yes,
and
that
on.
one as well, for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can go on and on and on. Like
That's
it's so
wild.
common. Yeah,
That's so
suppressed strep
crazy.
throat can lead to thyroid
I'm sorry, I
disease.
cut
I
you off.
mean,
I say that one. What leads?
suppressed strep throat can lead to thyroid disease.
I have all of
Um,
these. I have
yeah,
literally all of these. I got my
because the
tonsils
root
out. I have thyroid
because
problems.
the root cause of our diseases are suppression, in my opinion, and suppression on two layers, either the physical or the mental emotional. So it's not just the suppressing things that we do on to the physical body, like we're suppressing our physical symptoms and not allowing our body to express, because the expression is how we remove. The fever is how we heal. The runny nose, the discharge, the diarrhea, this is your body trying to heal. It's your body's attempt to remove what's not serving it. So that is one root cause, is suppression on the physical layer,
Hmm.
right? But there's also the suppression on the mental emotional, which is our other trigger, which is
Yes.
like your suppressed anger, your suppressed grief, your suppressed wants and needs, not putting up boundaries, being a people pleaser. These are all triggers to chronic disease as well, or just triggers to disease.
Yeah.
In fact, suppressed anger leads to chronic UTIs, is a huge, huge component. Not in my case particularly, but a lot of times it can be.
Mm-hmm.
It can also be abuse, like a trauma, a shock. Those kinds of things can all be triggers that turn on these genetic predispositions that were kind of just in us, you know?
For sure. I've been reading. Do you know who Nicole Sachs is? She just came
Yes, I
out.
did her work.
I love her.
Yes,
So
I like her work too. And I honestly thinking about going back to it because I did her work in the beginning and I got no traction, like when I was really, really sick. But I
oh,
think I really needed to build up my charge. Like I wasn't doing the circadian stuff and doing all this other stuff. I think I'd be in a better place for it to serve me now. But yes, I like her work. She's really great.
yeah, I
Yeah.
I got her book. She just released a book like with basically the whole method in there. So I would go back and read that book. And this is for anybody who has like these suppressed emotions. So like you were talking about when COVID
Mhm.
came, there was fear. COVID was
Oh,
like
yeah.
5 years ago from yesterday at the day of this recording, like when the world kind of
Mhm.
shut down on March 11th, 2020.
Yep.
And it was like I actually had to clear. I was having this neck issue and it was like my chiropractor adjusted me and I had like a weird reaction to it. I was like, "Can you take your hands off me?" Like I got like
Mm.
I felt like I needed to cry. I got really anxious and he's like, "Are you still doing your EMDR?" I was like, "No." Uh, and so he recommended someone to me and she did like muscle testing on her fingers and she's like, "It's something that
Mhm.
happened when you were 34." I was like, "You mean not when I was 4, when I was 34?" And so I'm like, "This is so weird." And so I was thinking, I'm like, what happened when I was 34? I was like, COVID. And I
Yep.
remembered like all of this fear. And so, yeah, like these suppressed emotions I'm finding are absolutely, they are triggering for a lot of people chronic pain, chronic symptoms of any kind. And it's
Mhm.
just what you're saying. Like these things are in our bodies, these emotions, the body keeps the score. They're like buried in our tissues and our fascia, and the body is perceiving them and trying to keep us
Mhm.
safe, and so it'll give us a symptom, so we have to deal with that instead of the scary idea of like facing COVID or like starting to date again or whatever, whatever these issues are. But
Yeah.
yeah, her book is called Mind Your Body, and the process that she teaches is called journal speak, which is not like regular journaling.
Mhm.
So powerful. So I think it's a great adjunct to what you're going to talk about. So now let's talk
Yeah.
about what is homeopathy. We've mentioned it a couple times, like, and how is it this like ultimate quantum medicine?
Yeah, I view it as the ultimate quantum medicine because it is literally energy medicine that you're taking. But
Okay.
first of all, homeopathy, you have to have a little background, is an ancient system of medicine created by the late and great Samuel Hahnemann, who was actually a scholar, a physician. He was a medical doctor.
Mm.
And he was really frustrated by allopathic medicine, practices. And he saw his patients weren't getting a cure. So he actually left the practice. He was like, I'm not doing this anymore because people aren't getting better. And he was,
Yeah.
he didn't feel good about it. And he was, what was he doing? He was reading medical text. So he was in another language. So he was
Translating?
reading. translating. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. He was translating medical texts, and he came across this idea of like cures like, and he also came across this remedy called cinchona bark, which would cause the symptoms of malaria. So he was like, okay, he was intrigued, and he started learning more and researching more. And this is how we came back for homeopathy. So basically, homeopathy is based on the law of similars, right?
Okay.
So every other medicine or even supplement that we take is based on the law of opposites, right? So if you have a histamine response, you're going to take an antihistamine. If you're depressed, you're going to take an antidepressant. If you have diarrhea, you're going to take something that's going to bind it. If you have constipation, you're going to take a laxative. It's always the law of opposites, right?
Okay.
So homeopathy uses the law of similars. So this law states that a disease can be cured by a substance if that substance can cause in a healthy person similar symptoms to the disease. So homeopathy actually means similar suffering. So whatever it can cause is what it can cure. Okay, so that's like a total mindset shift in itself, because you're like, wait a minute, that makes no sense. I don't understand it, because we don't live in that linear world. We have to suppress it. We have to stop it. So the reason why it works though is because it's kind of like giving the body like a nudge or a catalyst to self-heal. So your body does the work instead of a substance doing the work. Okay. And let me explain a little further about what like cures like. Homeopathy actually means similar suffering. So let's take an example of arsenic amalgam. So say arsenic amalgam is a homeopathic remedy, and people are always like, wait, is that arsenic? And I'm like, yeah, it is actually, but it's derived from the substance arsenic, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But so if somebody had arsenic poisoning, what would be their symptoms? They would be experiencing burning pains. They would be really restless. They would be super anxious. They would have diarrhea. They would have vomiting. They would have weakness. They'd be really cold except for their head, which would desire like open air. They would be thirsty for sips of water. They'd be really, really anxious and desire company, and they'd feel worse at midnight. Those are the symptoms of arsenic poisoning, arsenic amalgam. Okay. If you had those symptoms in a flu or a cold or a stomach virus, and I gave you that remedy, arsenic amalgam, it would cure said symptoms. And I've actually seen that happen many times. So that's how like cures like works. You can also think of it as apis, which is made from bee venom. Right, here's another example. You get stung by a bee, what happens, right? Your finger gets all red and swollen and hot, maybe a little itchy. Yeah. It's swollen, it burns, right? And you're like, it's better with cold applications, worse with heat, right? If you have a skin eruption like that, or a hive like that, and you take apis, or you have a bee sting and you take apis, which is derived directly from the venom of a honeybee, it will cure those symptoms and they'll go away. So that's another really good example. That's cool. That's how homeopathy works, right? All homeopathic substances are derived from natural sources in the environment. So they're either from minerals like arsenicum, mercury, there's like zinc and sulfur and, calcium, all the minerals. There's one from plants like pulsatilla is a flower. You might have heard of arnica. Before, that's a really popular one, or aconite, or haciamos, nux vomica, the poison nut. They can be from plants or from animals, like apis, like I mentioned, is the bee venom. There's lachesis, which is snake venom. There's sepia, which is the ink of the cuttlefish. They all come from nature. So it's like nature's medicine kit. And it's really used like all over the world, except for here. There's a whole story of, I'm sure you've heard of the Flexner Report and Rockefeller, and why that's why it's not practiced here anymore. It's kind of been suppressed here, but it's used in all over the world and other places, and very effective. And the reason why it's not used is due to its threat to big pharma, I think, and allopathy. And they've been trying to ban homeopathy for quite some time and trying to remove it from and homeopaths have to be kind of, up on that. But let's talk about why it's, energetic medicine.
Yeah, so like how much of like how you said this is made from mercury or like bee venom, like how much of the substance is in there, because it's like okay,
so that's Hahnemann's gift. Okay. So the reason why it's the ultimate quantum medicine and it works on the quantum energetic level is because you are not taking arsenic. You are taking an energetic imprint of that substance from nature. So if you understand the work of like Veda Austin and Dr. Emoto, you can understand, right, how water can take on energy and information and hold frequency and memory, right? So basically what homeopaths do is, and I don't do this, machines do this, but they make a tincture of a substance and then they go through this process of dilution and succussion. So you're diluting one drop of that tincture into, say, there's different levels of potencies, but as an example, 1 drop of that tincture into 99 drops of water. Okay. So it's super dilute, right? And then it's shaken or succussed, that like reinvigorates the energy. And then they take another 1 drop of that solution, of that 1 drop, and they do it again.
Oh, wow.
And they keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And they do it to the degree, depending on the potency that you were given, that's the strength of the medicine. They do it to a degree that there is no original substance left. So when you take a homeopathic remedy, as long as you are taking a 12C and above, and I never prescribe under a 12C because I don't give people arsenic, I don't give people mercury,
right?
I'm not going to give them the crude form of that substance. I am giving them an energetic imprint of that substance, okay? When you prescribe like that, you have taken all the toxicity out of the medicine and you have just left the curative action, and the body has to resonate. So the thing about homeopathy is you can't just be like, oh, I have arsenic poisoning, I'm going to take arsenic gum, right? Like you can't do that. It has to match your symptomology on the physical, mental, and emotional level. Like it has to be a resonance and a vibrational frequency match. So you don't just prescribe based off of a diagnosis. We prescribe based off of the person and their symptoms. Okay. So,
yeah, like a lot of people have blood sugar issues, but some people are like anxious and they get headaches, and other people are tired and they can't sleep and they have cravings, like very different, everyone has like a different.
They would need 2 totally different remedies.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So now what it does is homeopathy is kind of like just this catalyst or this nudge. So there's no toxicity. And in fact, a lot of the pharmaceuticals that we use are the same as what homeopaths use. It's the same thing, but they don't have this process of dilution and succussion. And a lot of people will poo-poo it and say it's nothing, right? If you talk to like a medical doctor, they'll say, well, there's nothing here. There's no actual substance left. But if you understand that water holds the energy and the information, it is imprinted. I think it works completely on the exclusion zone water. So when you take it, first of all, you're taking homeopathy is a form of structured water anyway we take it. So it's going to have this beautiful structure. You can actually, if you look it up on like Veda Austin's website, she has like homeopathic remedies that she's, done her freezing technique. And you could see the bee. Like you see an image of the bee.
Yes.
You could see the poison nut in Nux vomica. Like you can actually see the image, or the arnica flower or the pulsatilla flower. Like It's pretty amazing. So you're just taking that, your body will, given the right remedy, the body will resonate with it and it'll be like, oh, I haven't been doing the healing work that I'm supposed to do. It's been like slacking, and it will resonate and it just ignites the body to do some self-healing work that it needs to do.
Wow.
That's basically how it works.
So when you walk into a homeopath's office, like you mentioned, the symptoms are really important. Like what is an experience like when you what is this process like? Because it feels hard to picture how this all works.
I know. Yeah, it's definitely a mindset shift, right? So the process is just like you're coming to, I really think the process is therapeutic because first of all, someone see you and listen to your story and hear what you have to say for once. So that can be a healing in itself, to be seen and be heard, right? But you're going to tell them all your symptoms on the physical, mental, emotional level. And then they're going to ask you all of these really strange questions that you're going to be like, what does that have to do with my PCOS? Or what does that have to do with my anxiety, right? So they might ask you like, if you're really thirsty, if you desire cold water, if you stick your feet out of the covers, if you feel a cobweb sensation on your face, if you're more aggravated by fats, if you feel a hair on your tongue, they're going to ask you about your stool. They're going to ask you about your sleep. They're going to ask you about, of course, your health history. We want to know all about your parents' health history. We want to know all about like the possible triggers that it could be, like we spoke about before, like the mental, emotional stuff, the shocks, the traumas, the griefs, the suppressed emotions. We'll ask you, can you get angry? Are you a people pleaser? If somebody budges in front of you in line, are you going to just stand there and be quiet? Or are you going to do something?
Can you get angry? What an interesting way to phrase that question. I love it. And I'm sure do you cry easily, or like, can you cry?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you cry?
I cry.
Do you cry easily? Do you cry all the time? Do you cry at like little things? Or do you, even when you do cry, do you want to hug or do you want to be by yourself? Like all of these things matter to the homeopath.
I love this.
Very, much works on like the mental emotional sphere. In fact, I love it when I can figure out like the mental emotional triggers, because then I know I can get the person where they need to go, and when you have like such a clear match. But yeah, all of those kinds of weird questions are leading the homeopath to the right remedy for you, because we have these things called like what's called the material medica, and it's all of the remedies. There are like 2,000 to 3,000 remedies. So there's lots of remedies, and we are trying to figure out the right remedy that matches you. So we're not treating you, we're not treating your anxiety, we're not treating your PCOS. We are trying to figure out the remedy that you need to support your issues that you're dealing with.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so intriguing. So what happens when someone takes these remedies? You said like heals like I imagine you're like, a malaria, something that causes the symptoms of malaria. If you give that to someone with malaria, like, does it make them worse? Like, what
Okay.
happens?
So in the beginning, they might experience what's called like an aggravation of symptoms or an activation of the immune system. And
Okay.
I remember when I told you I had that itchy bladder,
Yes.
right? So I took a very high potency. I took a 1M, which is diluted 1 drop into 1,000 drops of water.
Okay.
So it works on the mental emotional sphere. Like the more dilute the remedy is, this is a really important quantum aspect. The more dilute the remedy is, the more it works on the mental emotional plane. Yes. And the stronger, more potent it is as well. So anyway, I took a pretty high dose because the remedy picture was very clear, right? It was like a very clear case of the remedy that I needed.
Okay.
And it was the right remedy, but I did have an aggravation of symptoms. And the aggravations of symptoms that I had were a pretty gnarly or 2 pretty gnarly left-sided migraines. And then also I had a really tough night of the itchy bladder, like one night of really bad itchy bladder, but then it went away and it was gone. Right. So, and then of course I felt a lot better.
Wow.
So the aggravation is the body waking up and being energized, and your redox be building and your mitochondria getting more supported, and your body's like waking up and able to actually heal, because it actually like up levels your health every time you take homeopathy, when you take the right remedy and when you don't overdo it. There's a lot of nuance because it is a hormetic stressor to the body. So you don't want to be like overdoing it. You need a homeopath to like kind of walk you through all this. I don't recommend self-prescribing, but yeah, it kind of wakes up the body and catalyzes the body to self-heal. But your body is doing the work. Your vital force, your immune system has your body like resonates with your biofield, and then your body has to do the work itself. And that's what makes it heal and not come back. If that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow. It's just such a different way of looking at things. So
very much.
Yeah.
Very much. And it also acts like the other reason why I consider it quantum medicine is you don't need to keep taking that stimulus. So I took one dose, and then it gives a curative action, right? And with like an herb or a supplement, because many people think homeopathy is an herb or a supplement. It's the same thing. Every time I say, "Oh, I'm a homeopath," what kind of herbs do you give? I'm like, no, like it's not how it works.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally like you take this one. Sometimes you have to take repeated doses. It depends on your case, right? If you're on pharmaceuticals, because that's an antidote, or if you are really a weak constitution, like your body's just needs more more stimulation. Sometimes we do a repeated dose, but a lot of times you can just give one dose, and that can act for months to years on a person as long as it's not antidoted. And the healing of that remedy will continue to act deeper and deeper and deeper in the body the longer you don't interrupt it. And like healing a layer, like I call it, I mean, everybody knows like the onion, like we're healing back the layer, but healing like one layer in homeopathy as we peel back each one, it could take like a year. So you don't really want to interrupt it if you don't have to,
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting. So what kinds of things can people see a homeopath for? Like what would someone, because I have a specific client in mind who is she's got a lot of stuff. I think probably a lot of suppression of emotions and a lot of just complex things that like we microdose every single one of her supplements. She's super sensitive to things. Like I'm like, does she need homeopathy? Like, so what type of a case, like what symptoms, like who is homeopathy recommended for her?
I think everybody should have a homeopathic view, in my opinion,
Okay.
because it supports the body instead of suppressing the symptoms, number one, and it builds health, it builds redox, it builds the immune system, it builds, your mitochondria back, your vital force, your energy. Like,
Yeah.
it just makes you stronger instead of weaker,
Okay.
and it works without harmful side effects. So I personally think everybody should have a homeopath, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that she would be a great case, right? Because she's kind of like stuck in this cell danger response, and she needs
Yes.
some support to get out of it, and she needs like to work on those exact triggers. But yeah, it could work on anything from acute to chronic conditions, really either one.
Okay.
So I've seen it work on things like like pneumonia, ear infections, strep throat, UTIs, yeast infections, like all those kinds of acute things, all the way to like hormonal issues, panic attacks, anxiety, depression, mold illness, any of those things. Like, so it could be either one. It could
Okay.
go either way.
Wow. Yeah.
But I would say that depending on your level of health depends on how long it will take to the person to get
Of
better,
course.
right?
Yeah.
So like the longer you've been sick, the longer it's going to take. And it could take a few years to build health back up with homeopathy because
Mhm.
again, it's your body that's being retrained to do the healing work. It's your immune
Mhm.
system that's being retrained. So it depends on how suppressed it is, how long that will actually take. But if you are the kind of person who is doing all of the things and you are still stuck, there is some sort of energetic blockage because
Yeah.
your body is designed to heal. It's a self-healing
It
machine.
is. Yeah.
So there's something that's keeping you stuck. And it's some sort of, I always say it's an energetic blockage. And that's either on the emotional plane, that's a shock, a trauma, a grief, suppressed emotions like we talked about before, or on the physical plane where you've suppressed this symptom and you've never been well since. Like, I've never been well since I've taken birth control, or I've never been well since I had this jab. I've never been well since I took this round of steroids or cortisone, right? Those kinds of things. Or since I suppressed the eczema, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to that deep layer. And like, as we're healing, the direction of cure is this is tough. We want our old symptoms to return because then we know we've cleared the upper layer and we're getting to the inside layer of the onion. Oh, I healed the gut issues. And guess what's back? My chronic acne that I suppressed. And now I have to work on that. That's how you know you're healing. And that's Herring's direction of cure. Constantine Harrington he wasn't a homeopath when he first started. He was actually a regular physician, and he was actually researching homeopathy to like get it extinguished. He was like to go against it because homeopathy was a big threat to allopathy when it came around. So he was there to like remove it. And, he wound up working, like trying to like work with Hahnemann and trying to like see what he was doing and trying to like debunk it basically. And what happened is he got a case of gangrene and he could not fix it with allopathy, and Hahnemann cured it with homeopathy, and then he became a homeopath, and then he discovered the direction of cure. My dog wants to
Well.
go out. Hold
Yep.
on.
Sure.
So yeah, really interesting. So yeah.
So tell me more about this direction of cure. What does that fully mean?
So direction of cure, there are four directions of cure. The first one is return of old symptoms. You actually will see this in quantum biology too. Like I've heard Carrie Bennett talk about it quite often. So it can happen with other modalities
Uh-huh.
too. But the direction of cure is like return of old symptoms is one. Healing from top down. So like starting from the head and coming out to the feet, or healing from the inside out. So we heal like with homeopathy, or most modalities, I always say you don't get to choose the way that your body heals. Your
Yes.
body's going to heal what's most important
Yeah.
to it first, right? So maybe you're really hoping for weight loss, but you've got to get your gut issues under control first. Or maybe you're really hoping to heal the chronic migraines, but your anxiety and depression have to get better first, right? This is kind of the body issues are the last to heal because it's the least important to the body. Like if you've got alopecia like I had, that's not really that important to the body. Like your hair is not important. The body needs to heal the internal things first. So healing from the inside out is another big one as well. So it depends on what you're coming with. But if you have, like I said, dealing with like internal organ stuff, okay, here's one. Like say you have heart issues and you have joint pain, the heart has to heal before the joint pain, right?
I love hearing this because this is what I see in like with my blood sugar mastery students and my private clients. A lot of them are frustrated because they're like, I really came for the weight loss. And it's like, well, I have more energy and I'm sleeping better and I'm
Yes,
digesting way
great.
better and I feel less achy. And it's like, but I haven't lost a pound yet. And it's like, I so hear you. Like I hear the struggles And like, that's exactly what you're talking about. Like, we don't get to choose the order in which the body heals. The body has so much innate intelligence, and it's going to repair what's most important first. Like, to be honest, do you want your body to have like damaged blood vessels in your heart, or do you want a couple of vanity pounds still on your body? Like, I'd rather have it heal the heart, or like the chronic anxiety, or like all these things. And then
Yep.
I also see a lot of people, especially when it comes to menstrual cycles. So when we're working on blood sugar, for me, that was like the foundation of helping to heal my PCOS. And I
Mm-hmm.
stabilized my blood sugar and I got down my inflammation. And that's what allowed my hormones to just rebalance. And
Mm-hmm.
when I like, what I see with my clients is that when we do the work on the blood sugar, it has an impact on the hormones, and sometimes things get a little bit like weird first, or like they get a little worse before they get better. And I'm always like, that's so good, that means that we're like getting, we're affecting the hormones. Like, they come to me and they're
Yeah.
like, well, I had this weird like cramping, or I had spotting and I've never had that before, or like my breast felt tender, or I had like cramping and I never normally have that, but my cycle was shorter, like, and it was better. And like, oh yeah, and I didn't have this bloating, and I didn't have acne, and I didn't have mood. So like, you'll see that like there's just a weird spattering of like a swapping of symptoms. So I always say it feels like it's like when we're working on the foundational things like the circadian rhythm and our blood sugar and our metabolic health, it's like we're shaking up a snow globe, and now things kind of
Mm-hmm.
need to resettle in a different way. But I
Yeah.
like your way of explaining it.
No, I love
Yeah.
that though too. And it's like we really have to understand that the body has the innate intelligence, and if like our sleep and our mood and our energy levels are better, that's the first thing I look for in homeopathy. That's how I know I'm on the right track. Like those things.
Yes.
I'm not really looking for the physical. I'm looking for, are your moods better, your anxiety, your depression, your sleep, your energy levels. This is what we're looking for. That's the
Yeah.
first clue that we're on the right track. So same thing with you, and you can certainly manipulate or effectively support symptoms with lifestyle supports,
Yeah.
as I greatly agree with.
Yeah. So you mentioned
Yeah.
something earlier, and also in our private conversations, that got me like really thinking, because I was sick for 2 weeks a while back,
Mm.
and you're like, were you able to like mount a fever? And I was like, no, I did. Or you're like, did you get a fever? And I was like, no, I didn't get a fever. And I thought about when last year, I think exactly at this time, probably again like a year ago from today, I went to Costa Rica. I had gotten divorced in January. And
Mhm.
then I went to Costa Rica to take like a solo vacation. And obviously, I had lots of grounding, lots and lots of sunshine, even more than I do here in Texas. And I got the flu, and I had a horrible fever, and I was in so much pain for 2 days. And it was like, of course, I go on vacation and I get this flu. But now I'm seeing it from like, I really upped my redox and gave my body the energy to mount the fever. Can you talk about like how
That's
these?
exactly what
Okay.
happens. And also, I think there's a mental emotional thing that was going on there
For
too
sure.
with the divorce and all of
Yeah.
that, things you're letting go of. And then the body's like also like the mental, emotional, and the physical, we cannot separate
No.
that. So that's also like the physical is the emotional release a lot of times too,
Mm,
right? So I'm sure that you are also releasing emotions through the physical, right? So I would
yes.
say that is probably part of it too. But yes, you are building your redox and all of that. So your energy level is stronger. So your body actually is capable of mounting that fever, because honestly, my sickest of the sickest clients, including myself,
Hmm.
don't get fevers. They can't.
Yeah.
They not. If you ask anybody with cancer or has any chronic disease, it wasn't the last time they had the fevers. They're like, I don't know. I don't remember. All the time I get this. So it's one of my questions on my intake is, when was the last time you've had a fever over 101, 102? And usually if they say they don't remember, that's not a good sign. And we lose this capability. Like it usually, not in my case, but usually children are more able to get higher fevers.
Yes.
They're stronger. Their mitochondria is stronger. Their redox is stronger. They have more exclusions on water. They're able to push things out, right? They are
Yes.
more capable of that. As we get older, and our heteroplasmy rate goes down and we keep suppressing everything and shoving everything in, we lose that ability to mount fever. So it's great that you got one, because that is a really good sign of health. And in fact, when I'm working with somebody with homeopathy, one of the things that I'm trying to do is get the fever response back into the person, because the acutes and the fever is actually how we heal. I would go as far to say is that absence of acute illness and fever is the presence of chronic disease, because the body because when you're never cleaning the junk, because you can do all the saunas you want or all the things like that, all the healthy things you want, but when your body mounts that internal heat and infrared itself, that is the ultimate healing and repair that the body can do. It's cleaning up everything out of the body that it doesn't need. So the reason why most people can't get fevers is because their system is so suppressed. The body is so busy dealing with the chronic. Like, how about that person here? Like, oh, so-and-so never gets sick, but they're on all these medications and they're on all these. This is because the body's too busy dealing with the chronic. It's so suppressed. It can't even respond. It doesn't even have enough energy to even respond to, I don't even believe in germ theory, but like the energetic resonance of the disease that's coming into their surroundings. So yeah, we just kind of like accumulate all of these toxins and kind of like junk that doesn't get discharged. I think a healthy body should have like 1 to 2 acutes a year, especially this time of year. I just had a really tough flu. That's was great. The remedy I worked amazing. It supported my body greatly, but it's just like, that's the discharge is the healing. Like, we need to reframe our thinking around symptoms. Like, that's the healing. That fever is the healing. The diarrhea is the healing. The discharge is the healing. All of that is healing, because the body is removing what no longer serves it. It's building exclusion zone water and pushing the things out. So yeah,
You have me thinking, because I got this. Have you heard of Lila Quantum?
yes.
So I got this Lila Q quantum block, right? And this thing harmonizes EMFs at a distance, at a radius of 2 kilometers. So my whole neighborhood is benefiting from this device, right? So I'm like, this thing must be very strong. And it was very shortly after that I started to get like an uptick of symptoms. And I'm like, why is this giving me symptoms? Like, I'm mad at the symptoms. I'm like, is this too much? Am I
Aren't
getting,
we all?
yeah. I'm like, am I getting a Herx reaction? Like, is this too much for me? Is it and I'm thinking now, is this what is allowing my body to, like, because I had so much, I can't even tell you how much mucus. I'm sorry, guys. I had, like, you heard me record it. If you listen to my podcast, you heard me a couple of weeks ago. My nose was completely blocked up, and I like could not get rid of, like, I just had so much coming out of my nose. And so I'm like, this is it's an interesting way of looking at things, because obviously it's like quantum healing. It's harmonizing. Like, it's not bad. And so I'm like, how does this fit together? Like, I couldn't really make sense of it. And now I feel like I'm understanding this a little bit better. I don't know.
I think that's really possible, because your body was up leveled, so then it's just removing what doesn't need to be there anymore. Like, it built your redox, it built the exclusion zone water. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't view, I mean, of course, if you're getting acutes all the time, right, that's not great.
Yes.
But once or twice a year, that's perfect. That's great.
Yeah.
But honestly, there is in homeopathy, we learn like these levels of health, and there's I think it's 10 or 12, but the level 4, which my son was definitely in at one point, where they're like, the body is trying to like reverse chronic disease, right? They will get lots of acutes. And this is when kids get lots of acutes when they're younger, like back to back. The body's like, doesn't want to go into chronic disease. So the body's like trying to not let it happen. So it keeps getting all these acutes to try and heal. And then if they heal correctly, then they go back down, like they go back better to better health. And if they don't, then they go up worse to chronic disease. So a lot of times, like, I can use my own children as an example, because of course they take homeopathy. like when my oldest took a remedy for he had chronic anxiety and bloody noses, and we'd given him a remedy, and his anxiety got way better. Like, it was great. He had some bloody noses that came out really bad. Those were part of his aggravation.
Wow.
But then he also started developing acutes again. So all of a sudden here he's getting fevers, and he's getting colds, and he's getting flus. I'm still waiting for his skin stuff to come back. He hasn't really gotten there yet.
Okay.
See how long it takes?
Yeah.
It takes a couple of years, right?
Wow.
But because I've suppressed a lot of eczema and things like that in him, so those will eventually come back. But anyway, my point is that that's part of the healing process, is that these acutes come back. And this can be scary for parents, because they're like, oh, I don't want to deal with the eczema that I've suppressed, or I don't want to deal with, the ear infections. My youngest, I'll give him as an example. We were working on behavioral issues with him, and what came back? The ear infections that I suppressed. And that was tough because they were really intense. And we had one really tough week of finding the right remedy, and I had the right remedy. I just didn't have the right potency. So homeopathy is like an art and a science, because it's not only finding the right remedy, it's finding the right potency. And that's a whole nother conversation, but it's like the strength of the medicine. And once I got the right potency, along with the right remedy, I got that ear infection under control. But then of course he also developed fevers. And I'll just give you one more example. My middle son, he had these intense panic attacks. They were so intense. Like he literally needed to be by my side, and he was so anxious and so fearful. And I wound up giving him one remedy, one dose of the remedy, and he never had another panic attack again. After one dose, it's acted for years. He still has some like residual effect of that remedy. Like I think that like that layer, like I have to probably give it to him in a lower potency at some point. But his aggravation or his activation of his immune system was just a little bit of fatigue, and he got alopecia like me. And that's how the anxiety healed. But see how I'm saying the brain, it's almost like coming out through the alopecia. Like it almost came out through that. And then he never had another panic attack or has any anxiety. And he's so confident. He had like no confidence then. He's so confident now. It's like that was his case is like one of the most like amazing miracle cures I've ever seen. So
this is just like blowing my mind. I am going to be setting up an appointment with you because I'm so excited about all of this. I feel like it's like linking every single thing that I have been learning about, like with the mental, emotional, the repressed emotions, and also like the suppressed symptoms and the quantum biology. Like it's everything all in one place. So I feel so excited about learning about this. So thank you so much for sharing, Vanessa. Did we miss anything important that you want to share? Any other stories?
No, I mean, I will say with my case, I was never myself after the injury from the medical intervention. I spent like I guess it was like a year and a half not feeling like myself. And that was really hard because you're like, you just don't feel like yourself. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, it was such a feeling where I'm like, it's like I'm like not living in my own body. Like, it was a weird feeling. And I took a remedy at one point, and I had an aggravation, and I was like, I didn't sleep well for like 3 weeks, and I was super depressed for 3 weeks. And then after that, all of a sudden, I started acting like me again. And my mom was like, you're like acting like Vanessa again. And I was like, I know, I feel like myself again. And I honestly feel like that was the remedy that removed the layer of that right out of my system. And it was just like, I don't know how else to this, like, it's such an amazing testament to the medicine. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Like from not feeling like yourself for a year and a half due to some sort of suppressive therapy that you've taken to all of a sudden feeling like yourself again. So yeah. And anything else, I would just say, learn homeopathy, like learn the ancient wisdom of this medicine. You don't have to suppress symptoms. Like you can. And of course, I'm not saying that there's never a time for Western medicine. My husband broke his clavicle. Yeah, no, we went to the emergency room and he got that fixed up. And of course I supported him with some remedies that would help him heal. But of course we're not going to, there are times for Western, but there's always nuance. There's always shades of gray. And sometimes, you can't find the right remedy and you need allopathic, right, medicine, or you need something else, right, to support you, right? It's not like a panacea either. I don't want to make it sound like that. Like the more that I don't want people to think like homeopathy is like another just pill for them to take and to just take everything and move on, right? Because you do still have to like live the right lifestyle as well. So I think marrying quantum biology and homeopathy is really, really great because you're both building the redox, right? And then you're helping your healing capacities be even stronger.
Yeah.
So, but I also have seen homeopathy work in people who don't have the best lifestyles,
Yeah.
right? So, but I will say that, but I would say you have a better chance of healing if you're supporting your body in all the facets. So learn homeopathy because you could learn how to treat acutes all on your own. I actually have quite a few courses to treat, so you could learn how to treat, say, flu or strep throat or like common childhood ailments, things like that, because UTIs. I have one for ear infections, because I think parents being armed with that information and knowing how to use homeopathy is so powerful. I also have a free homeopathic guide. They can grab that also. So just if you have the knowledge and then you have the remedies, you have to have two things: the knowledge and the remedies in your home, because God forbid you have the flu and you're like, I know the remedy to take, but I don't have it.
Okay.
And you got to wait like 2 days to order it. Like that stinks,
Yeah.
right? So you need to have the knowledge and you need to have the medicine with you, but you can treat a lot of things. Like one time, a friend of mine, child had a concussion. I get the remedy right away. Like you can treat these things if you have it, the knowledge and the medicine with you. So if you learn it, that could be really supportive too. But then, of course, for chronic conditions, you absolutely want to seek a professional because it is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And it's not one remedy that's going to heal everything. It's usually the correct sequence of remedies.
Yes.
Pulling back layers slowly but surely.
Okay. Love that. And we will link your website and everything down in the show notes, and your Instagram, your podcast.
Awesome.
And people can work with you one-on-one, correct?
Yes. Okay. Homeopathy has to be one-on-one. Yep. There's no really other way to do it.
Okay. Got it. I did have a question. What about something like I started taking a couple of very specific B vitamins that have actually been supporting my, because I have mold toxicity, and I've been having allergies as like a reaction to whatever I'm doing, and so I'm learning things, and I realized that I needed these couple of B vitamins, not methyl Bs, not B12, and folate, FYI, if anyone's thinking about it, because those are giving me symptoms. So I started taking these Bs, and it's helping. So is that a suppressive therapy, or is that like helping things with like the biochemistry, or like if someone has low stomach acid, repleting with betaine HCl, like is that suppressive, or it's just not? I don't know.
That's such a good question, and it's like such a hard one to answer.
Okay.
I think if you like, I don't think it's suppressive necessarily, because it's giving the body like an input that it needs, right? Because it's lacking it. So I don't know if I would consider that suppressive, but I don't know if I consider it curative either. So like take, for example, like say someone takes magnesium citrate because they have constipation, right?
Oh yeah, that's
eventually right. So they just have to continue to keep taking it, right? And over time the body might need like more and more and more for it to actually work, because they like build up a tolerance, right? So they need more and more and more, and they have to like continue to take it. I kind of see it more like as a Band-Aid than suppressive, I guess, is how I see it. Okay. Like it's not really getting to the root cause of the issue, right?
Well, if there's a deficiency in the nutrients, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying, but my question is, why is there a deficiency in the nutrients? Like we have to go deeper.
Right.
Like we have to ask deeper questions, right?
Yeah.
That's how I see it. Because there's obviously some gut dysbiosis, or
the
there's
mold
some
toxicity. Like that's what the mold is like.
But what's the root cause of the mold? Like, so like we have to go even further.
Yeah.
Right?
Why is my body hospitable to toxins? Why can't it get rid of them?
Right. And then usually with mold, I would say it's a common use of penicillin or use of antibiotics that causes that.
Really?
So
antibiotics?
Yeah. I would say typically that's.
I used to ask for the pink stuff when I was little, which was amoxicillin, and then I became immune to it. I also had recurring yeast infection, and then other infection. I also had my gynecologist on speed dial. I'd be like, can I get another diflucan or whatever, however you say it. Like it's so funny. I have like all these same.
Yes, I think I related to you, because when I listen to your podcast, I'm like, oh, I can relate to Danny. She's got a lot of things going on.
Oh my gosh, so similar. It's so crazy. But I can't, I feel like as soon as you said the healing goes from like the inside out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to get acne again. Like,
yeah, that direction of cure would be that you had acne again.
that's so crazy. But it's
Yeah,
like
which is not, it's not fun. And then that acne is gonna, if you want my honest opinion about that acne, it's gonna need to express for a little while, which people are not comfortable with. Because you can't suppress it right away, because say, for example, you healed your gut and the acne comes back out. Well, if I gave another remedy right away after that for the acne and cleared that up,
push it back into the gut.
It could push it back in. So it has to express for a little bit of time.
Wow.
So that can be an uncomfortable conversation.
But even if, okay, so there's two stories with acne for me. So I just want to get your opinion on this. When I was a teenager, I took antibiotics, of course, to suppress the acne. But then I had it when I had PCOS, and what was driving that was the high insulin spikes. And so I took out those foods. So it wasn't a suppressive therapy. It was like,
that's different.
Right? So
yeah,
maybe my teenage acne needs to come back to you.
Yeah.
My skin is finally clear for like the first time in my life. No, for the last couple of years. But anyway, all good. Yeah. But thank you, Vanessa. This has been such a a cool thing to learn. And like I said, I'll be booking my appointment shortly. So thank you.
Oh, well, awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciated the conversation. It's really fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.